Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is actually the third day of a retreat that I'm teaching here. And I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's fine. You guys are welcome to stay as long or as short as you'd like to stay, but we have a full day of activities planned. So I'll explain to you guys all the things that we're going to be doing, and then I'll kind of get started with our class. What I'm going to be doing here this morning is I'm going to be teaching loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that helps you to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, and things of this nature. That the unenlightened mind will experience these kinds of feelings, but through training the mind in the way that the Buddha taught, you can get to a point where you no longer experience that. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is accomplished through training of the mind. You'll get to the point where the mind no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. The Buddha taught how to get to this enlightened mental state, and this is based in cultivating the mind and training the mind. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha, so you're not believing a bunch of things and hoping that something good happens when you die. The teachings of the Buddha also are not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. It's all about training your mind, doing this inner work to grow and develop as a human being. Not only will you get to the point where you don't experience those discontent feelings, but you'll notice that your mind has focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind has been purified of certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. And when you apply his tools and techniques, you can uproot these pollutions out of the mind, and it will then perform optimally. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, that you don't have any bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore. You'll have all harmonious relationships. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even be able to experience a bad mood. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. So this is coming through training of the mind, and I've been helping students throughout this week to be able to gather the understanding of this path to enlightenment as part of this retreat. And we've gotten to the point today where I'm now going to be teaching this loving kindness meditation, which is essentially going to rewire the mind to be more loving and kind and warm and gentle. And now this is one of the things that's going to help you to improve your relationships, because oftentimes people think the way that you improve your relationships is trying to change the other person, but this isn't actually true. The way that you're going to change your relationships is you got to work on your own mind so that you can function in your relationships differently. So I'm going to start with that, helping students to understand loving kindness meditation, and then ultimately we're going to do a loving kindness meditation session together. After that, we're going to have a little break, and then I'm going to share a teaching called What is Karma and How Does It Affect Me? This is a natural law that the Buddha is helping you to be able to awaken to. You might have heard this referred to as karma. This is a different language, where the language in the teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so we use this word karma. This isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards or who's at fault or who's to blame. It's about helping you to understand wise decision-making and how to get to a point where as you're making wise decisions, you'll experience wholesome results in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to explain 4 different types of karma and how to get to the point where you're only experiencing wholesome karma, that you've extinguished all your unwholesome karma. I'm going to be teaching what is merit. This is a particular type of karma. Then in the afternoon, we actually have an excursion or a field trip that we're doing. We're actually going out of the city to an orphanage, and we're going to be taking a bunch of offerings to be able to help them to be able to take care of their children. So if there's anybody who would like to attend to go to the orphanage, you can let me know at our break, so that way that I can organize transportation. Right now, we have about 9 or 10 people that have let me know that they're going. That maybe there's some more people here that would like to go out to the orphanage with us, where we're going to put together some money. We're going to go to the store. We're going to buy a bunch of rice and vegetables and supplies that they could use. And then we're going to take it to the orphanage and help them to be able to have these resources to be able to take care of the children. Then we're going to come back to the temple. And this evening at 6:30, I'm going to be teaching a topic called experiencing the jhanas. These are these are 4 phases of the mind where you're experiencing enhanced qualities of mind as you're making your way to enlightenment. So as you're training your mind through the teachings of the Buddha, you'll see these enhanced qualities of mind. And these are kind of 4 preliminary phases that the mind goes through before you get to the first stage of enlightenment. Because this retreat that I'm teaching, it's called Developing a Life Practice to Attain the First Stage of Enlightenment. And these jhanas are something that an individual will experience on their way to the first stage of enlightenment. And this retreat is sharing all the teachings that an individual needs to be able to get to this first stage of enlightenment. So again, welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone online. As I mentioned, you guys are welcome to stay as long or as short as you like. You're welcome to come and go. But these are the things that we're going to be doing throughout the day. As I go in the talk that I share with you guys, I'm going to pause a few times and see if you guys have questions. And if you guys would like to ask questions, you're more than welcome to, whether you're here at the temple or you're online. And when I get to the question period, if you're here at the temple and you'd like to ask questions, we have microphones in the white bowl here in the middle of the room. All you need to do is come get a microphone, take it back to your seat. You can press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. And if you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that'll be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anyone who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So as I was sharing this loving kindness meditation, just one second, I'm going to switch over to some visual aids for the people online here. Let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. So this loving kindness meditation, it's a meditation that the Buddha taught in order to help you eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, and others. Oftentimes people think that those feelings are coming from something external, but one of the things that I've taught already in this retreat is a teaching called the Four Noble Truths. And in 4 simple statements, the Buddha shares with you what it is that's causing these discontent feelings. And the way that the Buddhist teachings work is that they're independently verifiable. As I mentioned, they're not based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping that something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, investigating, and examining his teachings. You're reflecting on them to verify if they're true or false, and then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life so that way you can be training your mind. So in the Four Noble Truths, you learn that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and you can do this in a way that you independently verify. The Buddha discovered that the unenlightened mind is basically going up and down and up and down and up and down. You get happy and excited, but then you get sad and frustrated, or you get irritated and annoyed, you get disappointed or embarrassed, you get shy. These are all feelings that the mind is experiencing because of its lack of training. You can actually train your mind to get to the point where you don't experience those things anymore. And it starts with understanding what's causing these feelings, because people think that it's something external. What's causing these feelings is something called craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection. It craves permanence. The mind in the unenlightened state is craving things to be permanent, and it's forming its inner feelings based on some external condition. So for example, if it's sunny outside and you get really happy and excited about that, well then when it rains, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if your bank account balance is up here and you get really happy and excited about that, when it goes down here, you'll get sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change, but the unenlightened mind doesn't understand that. It craves permanence. So when the mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition, like the sun, when you base your happiness on the sun, your happiness is not permanent because the sun is not permanent. Or if you base your happiness on your bank account up here, that is not permanent. So as soon as that changes, your mind can't be happy any longer. This is the whole underlying problem that the Buddha figured out, that as long as your mind is craving permanence, your mind's longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection, it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. But because you live in an impermanent world and things are constantly changing, your mind is going to go up and down and up and down. But you can get to a point where your mind is beyond this, that you're no longer forming your inner feelings based on these external circumstances. And this is understood through the Four Noble Truths. And I've already shared that in detail. It took me about 45 minutes to an hour to share that with students. And if you haven't learned that, it's okay, because we have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. We have plenty of things like this to be able to help you. And it's all available at no cost. So you'll be able to learn these kinds of things if you're really interested in transforming your mind and eliminating all the anger and hatred and ill will in your mind. Because oftentimes what the mind does, and one of the reasons why you need this loving kindness meditation, is it has dislike towards other people. Because of this craving for permanence, if the mind gets what it wants, it's happy and excited, or it likes this person. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it has anger and hatred and ill will towards this person, and even dislike. And this is the mind craving permanence. The mind wants everybody to do things a certain way. So the mind in the unenlightened state thinks my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. And now if everybody does it my way, then I'll be happy and I like this person. But if they don't do it my way, then I will dislike them. And again, people typically think that dislike is coming from the other person, when in reality it's coming from your own mind, because the mind is craving permanence, wanting people to do things a certain way. The mind thinks everybody should do it this way. And if they do it this way, if they do it my way, I will like them. But if they don't do it my way, the mind will dislike them. And this, what you would like to get to, is where you have unconditional love for all beings. Because what the mind will typically do is you can only love people who do things your way. But there's only one person in the world who actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you guys know who that one person is that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself, right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, then you can only love yourself. And you might actually have difficulties doing that sometimes, where you have trouble to love yourself. So this meditation is going to help you to cultivate love and kindness in your mind so that you can have love for others. But it's also going to help you to cultivate loving kindness for yourself. Because sometimes people walk around with a negative self-talk in their mind, like an inner dialogue where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. You don't have to do that. You can actually transform that, where you can have loving and kind thoughts in your mind, not only towards others, but yourself as well. So I'm going to help you to understand this meditation, and I'm going to be using some of the words of the Buddha to help you see what he's actually teaching here related to this topic of loving kindness. So this is a slide that I showed earlier in the retreat, helping people to understand what is actually being eliminated from the mind with meditation and what is being cultivated in the mind. Because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And you're doing this in the seated, lying, standing, or walking positions. Meditation is not exercising or walking the dog or going for a drive. It's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. It's kind of like taking the mind to the gym and exercising it. So with this loving kindness meditation, it's helping to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. You can get to the point where you don't even have the slightest dislike towards other beings. And you're cultivating the wholesome qualities of loving kindness for all beings. You would like to get to the point where you have love and kindness for everyone, where you can disagree with people's choices and decisions, but you can love the person. Oftentimes people feel like they can't love somebody unless they agree with all of their decisions. Well, you're never going to agree with anybody's decisions 100% of the time. I typically take this survey when I talk about this kind of topic. I would like to ask you guys a question. I've never seen anybody raise their hand here, but I'm still trying to see if somebody is actually going to confirm what it is that I'm asking here. So let me ask you, out of spending time with your parents throughout your entire life, is there anybody here that has agreed with 100% of every single thing that their parents have ever done? Anybody? Nobody has ever agreed 100% with their parents? Well, see, you can see even someone who you're really close to, like your parents, you didn't agree with them 100%. So this is where you need to separate the choices and decisions someone makes from the person themselves. So that way you can learn how to love the person while disagreeing with the choices and decisions that they make. And in this way, you can actually love everybody because you're not going to agree with people's choices and decisions. So this loving kindness meditation is going to help you cultivate this loving kindness in the mind. But then you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to the point where you have no anger in your mind. The meditation is to fill up your gas tank, essentially. It's like filling up your mind with loving kindness, but then you need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. That's one of the reasons why we're going to the orphanage today, so people can practice generosity and being loving and kind with other beings and not wanting something for ourselves, but instead just giving to other people without any expectation of anything in return. So that's the way I teach retreats, is I teach you some topics like this in the morning, and then we go out and actually practice the teachings in our day-to-day life. So you can get to the point where you have love and kindness for everybody because you understand that, yes, of course our parents make decisions differently than us because they've had different experiences than us. The world is full of impermanence. Things are constantly changing. The problem that an individual has in a relationship is the mind's full of expectations and certain things that you want from this person, cravings, desires, and your mind is wanting and longing, yearning for that, and you can only be happy if you get those things. But in a relationship where you're not getting what you want and what you expect, now the mind's angry or frustrated or sad. So this isn't the way to have harmonious relationships, because in this situation, you can only be happy if you're getting what you want. And this is the mind's selfishness. And you would like to move beyond that, where you're practicing unconditional love, where you love this person unconditionally. They don't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. Where oftentimes what we're doing in the unenlightened state is you might say that you've fallen in love with someone and you're falling out of love with someone. If you're falling in love with someone and out of love with someone, this isn't actually love. This is at the beginning of the relationship. They're meeting your expectations and they're doing things the way you want them to do it. So you tell them, I love you. And now you function as if you love them and you act as if you love them. But then over time, as you have these expectations that form in your mind, now this person isn't meeting your expectations anymore. And you start getting angry and frustrated at them because they're not doing things your way. And now you might say, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. And maybe people have done this to you, where they've come to you and they said, I don't love you anymore. I need to end our relationship. What's happened is at the beginning of the relationship, their expectations were being met. But then as time went on, you couldn't meet their expectations. And now they say, I don't love you anymore. This isn't actually love. This is their selfishness. So while there's no such thing as conditional love, we might call this conditional love. That if you meet all my conditions and you do everything that I want you to do, then I will say I love you and I will function like I love you and I will act like I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, then I don't love you anymore. This is not true love. Again, there's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. What you would like to get to is where you have unconditional love. This is true love, where someone doesn't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. What love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Active goodwill towards all beings, where you don't want anything from them, you don't expect anything from them, you're not putting expectations on them and trying to control them and tell them what they should or shouldn't be doing in life. But unfortunately, that's what we experience a lot as we go through life. Because oftentimes our parents do have unconditional love for us, that they love us unconditionally. But oftentimes their cravings, desires, attachments, their wants and expectations get in the way of that true love, and it kind of pollutes it. So when we're in a relationship with people like our parents who we think are supposed to love us, but yet they're putting expectations on us and maybe trying to control us, our mind gets conditioned to think that that's what love is. And now when we have relationships, you might be putting expectations on your boyfriends or girlfriends, your life partners, your friends and other family members. And as long as you're putting expectations on people and trying to control them and force them to do things your way, you're not practicing true love. So you would like to get to the point where you're not putting expectations on people and trying to control them, because you know that you don't like it when people do that to you. But the thing about the unenlightened mind is that it tends to do that to other people. So you'd like to get to the point where you just have unconditional love, where this person doesn't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. You just have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And this can be cultivated through the meditation, but then you need to go out into the world and practice that through your intention, speech, and actions. So this loving kindness is the antidote or the wholesome root or the remedy to anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions. It's going to help you eliminate the harshness, the bitterness, and the hostility that's in the mind. Because oftentimes people think that that is coming from the other person, but it's actually coming from your own mind. With that craving for permanence, where the mind is longing, yearning, and expecting things to be a certain way. And if you get that, you're happy. But if you don't, you get angry and frustrated. That's the mind itself that's causing that. And typically when that anger is arising, you will tend to push people away. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away friends or family members, or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards them through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear them into doing things your way. Or the third thing that the mind will do when it doesn't understand that it's causing its own anger is it'll try to put expectations on people and try to control them and pressure them to do things your way. So this meditation is going to help you eliminate that bitterness and hostility, that resentment in the mind, because that's just getting in the way of you having harmonious relationships. Because if you can only have harmonious relationships with people who do things your way, once again, you're the only person who does things your way. It's only a matter of time, if you're in a relationship for long enough, that you're going to see this person does things differently than you, because the world is impermanent. Not everybody does things the same way, but the mind in the unenlightened state craves everybody to do things the same way. That's the craving for permanence. But we don't live in that world. People do things different ways. So if you crave permanence, which is what the unenlightened mind does, it's only a matter of time in these relationships, if they go long enough, that this person's going to start doing things differently than you. And you're going to start seeing that. Your anger is going to arise, and that's where you're going to want to push this person away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or put your expectations on them. And now the relationship is not harmonious any longer. And you might actually have people doing this to you too, that they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're putting expectations on you. So this cultivation of loving kindness will help your mind to understand more and more what love is, so that when people are practicing true love with you, you can identify it and you can understand that. And when people aren't practicing true love with you, you can see that too. Because oftentimes people have a really hard time to determine whether someone actually loves you or not. But the more you understand what true love is, you can actually see someone practicing true love more and more. This loving kindness is part of what we call the Brahma Viharas. These are 4 healthy mental states that the Buddha taught in order to cultivate in the mind to eradicate certain symptoms in the mind. The Buddha sometimes gets the reputation of being like a doctor, where there's certain symptoms in the mind, and then you apply a certain prescription. But you are your own best doctor. So what the Buddha did is he taught you what these symptoms are and what the mind's experiencing, and then he taught you the prescription to apply. Because if you understand this in your day-to-day life, when you see these unwholesome qualities arising in your mind, when you see the symptom, you can actually apply the prescription or the antidote. So loving kindness is the antidote or the prescription for anger, hatred, ill will, hostility, bitterness, and all these other things. So whenever you see that coming up into your mind, you can bring in the loving kindness. So let me give you an example so you can kind of bring this to life for yourself. Something I know that you guys can all relate to. Let's just say you're like really excited to go to Thailand and you just can't wait to get to Thailand because you know they have massages, they have mango and sticky rice, they have some really great pad thai, they have elephants that you can go visit. There's all this stuff and you're back home in your home country and you're so excited to come to Thailand. And you show up to the airport and your flight is delayed or it's canceled. And you're like, oh man, I got to sit in the airport for 3 more hours. I can't get on the plane to get my mango and sticky rice, right? The mind maybe is frustrated and angry. It's not the airplane company that's causing that anger and frustration. It's the mind's craving for permanence. The mind, if it gets what it wants, it's happy and it's excited. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it's angry and frustrated. So when you show up and you're getting angry in that situation where your flight's delayed or you're getting frustrated, that's the mind craving permanence. I want every single airplane to take off on time, right? Especially the ones that you're on. Well, it's not possible for every airplane to take off on time because we live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. Some airplanes are going to take off on time and some are not. There's going to be a maintenance issue, a crew issue, a weather issue. If you travel enough, it's only a matter of time before you run into a travel delay. So when you're in that situation where you show up to the airport and you notice the frustration and agitation arising because you just want to get to Thailand, right? And now you're like, there's that anger, there's that frustration. And if you know it's your own mind that's causing this because you're craving permanence, now you can bring in this loving kindness. Instead of being bitter and harsh and hostile with the person at the airline company, you can be loving and kind and warm and gentle. Oh, sir, ma'am, the flight's delayed? Really? How long is it going to be? Oh, 3 hours. Okay, I understand, right? I understand because the world's impermanent. So I'm just curious, since I'm going to be here for 3 hours, is the airline company offering any free vouchers for food or something like that I could maybe go to a restaurant in order to eat some food before the flight comes, right? You can be polite and kind and friendly and respectful, and perhaps they give you free food vouchers. But if you're angry and bitter and hostile and harsh with them, you're not going to be getting anything like that, right? So you would like to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful with all the people around you. Because when you're being bitter and harsh and hostile, it's not going to produce wholesome results in your day-to-day life. But when you're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, you can produce wholesome results. So that's why this loving kindness is so important, because as you bring this loving kindness up in your mind more and more, and you notice the anger and frustration coming up, you can bring in the loving kindness within your mind if you've been cultivating it on a regular basis. And now when you're making decisions through your loving kindness, it will produce wholesome results. Because when you make decisions through anger, hatred, and ill will, and all those lesser versions, it's going to produce unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. So this is what loving kindness is. Here's some words from the Buddha on loving kindness, because he has this core central teaching. It's called the Eightfold Path. And other teachings of his integrate into this Eightfold Path. I taught this yesterday in this retreat where I walked students through step by step, helping them to see this core central teaching using the original words of the Buddha. And this loving kindness meditation actually integrates into the Eightfold Path. So this is to help you guys see where it integrates in. So there's a step on the Eightfold Path called right intention, right thinking, or right thought, where you practice the intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, and the intention of harmlessness. Whenever you see a double negative in English, non-ill will, that's actually a positive, right? So non-ill will is the same thing as goodwill, right? So what the Buddha is teaching you here is to have the intention or thinking or thought of goodwill. This is part of your journey to enlightenment. The Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment. This is actually how you train your mind to get to enlightenment. So he's teaching students to cultivate the intention or the thinking or the thought of goodwill, because that's what's going to motivate your speech, actions, and livelihood. If your speech, actions, and livelihood come from hostility and bitterness, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. But if you can motivate your intention, speech, and actions through this goodwill, now it's going to produce wholesome results for you. And he also teaches this intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because as long as you cause harm, harm is going to come back to you. This is the natural law of gamma, of cause and effect. You can't cause someone else to be discontent. You can't cause them to be angry and frustrated, but you can cause them harm. Causing someone harm would be to cause harm to their physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation. If you're causing harm to someone, this harm is going to come back to you. Then, as part of right speech, there's the 5 factors of well-spoken speech that integrate into the teachings of the Buddha. He taught some moral conduct to be able to help you understand wise moral conduct, but he doesn't teach it as rules or commandments. He's teaching it as part of this natural law of gamma, of cause and effect, so that you can see wise decision-making around your moral conduct. And one of the things that he teaches is called the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, because when you speak with the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, it's going to produce wholesome results for you in your day-to-day life. He teaches you to speak at the proper time. What you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. But how could you have a mind of loving kindness or the intention of goodwill if you didn't have a tool or a technique like loving kindness to be able to cultivate it in the mind? So that's why he's sharing with you this loving kindness meditation, so that you can cultivate this loving kindness in the mind. And now, as you have that permeating in the mind, your speech and your actions can emanate from that. So loving kindness is going to wrap your speech in loving kindness. Whereas if you speak with inner hate, which is the opposite of loving kindness, this is going to produce unwholesome results for you. Here's another teaching from the Buddha where he was actually reminding his students of the 5 factors of well-spoken speech prior to this. And he was reminding his students, he said, while you speak at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness, there's going to be occasions where people don't speak to you that way, right? Because of impermanence, not everyone's going to speak to you polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, right? And when someone speaks to you polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, you probably get really happy about that. But when someone doesn't speak to you that way, you probably get angry or frustrated. But that's the mind craving permanence. It wants everything to be done a certain way permanently. But that's not the way the world's constructed. The world is full of impermanence. So before this, he was reminding his students, while I'm teaching you to speak at the proper time, true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness, there's going to be occasions where people don't speak to you that way. And when people don't speak to you that way, here's what he's guiding his students to do. He says, our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. I'm sorry, the plant's in the way, so I can't really see. We shall reside compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall reside enveloping that person with a mind filled with loving kindness. And starting with him, we shall reside enveloping the all-encompassing world with a mind filled with loving kindness, abundant, joyful, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train monks. So when other people are speaking to you in unkind ways, it doesn't help you to be angry and frustrated or agitated or hostile with them. It's not helping you. The best thing you can do when somebody's being bitter and harsh and hostile with you is just walk away. Because you're not causing that bitterness and hostility. It's their own mind that's causing it. So there's nothing you can say that's going to stop them from being bitter and harsh and hostile. Sometimes you might think you need to stay in the conversation and you need to try to convince this person to calm down. But you can't do that. It's their own mind that's causing it. Their mind has to let go of whatever their craving, desire, attachment is. So the best thing you can do when someone's being bitter and harsh and hostile is train your mind to be unaffected by their bitterness and hostility and just choose to walk away from the conversation. And then this person can see that it's their own mind that's causing that hostility. It's not you. Whereas if you become bitter and harsh and hostile right back with them, they can't see that it's their own mind that's causing that hostility because they're hostile and bitter and you're hostile and bitter. It's like fireworks going off. So when someone's being bitter and harsh and hostile with you, just walk away. That's very freeing. It's very liberating to be able to do that. You'll maybe have trouble to do that. And maybe they even get more angry when you walk away, but that's their mind craving for you to be in the conversation with them. But more and more, when you do that, they will start to be able to see that it's their own mind that's causing this bitterness and hostility. And now this person's mind can get more and more peaceful because their mind's letting go and it's not having this craving, desire, attachment. Here's some more teachings from the Buddha on loving kindness. Here the Buddha is actually teaching his son, Rahula. Sometimes people think the Buddha left his family and he never actually came back. This isn't actually true. He left out of his family for about 6 years to go train his mind, but then he ends up coming back, and his son and his wife and his mother and other people started joining him to be his students. So here he's actually teaching his son, Rahula. He says, Rahula, develop meditation on loving kindness, for when you develop meditation on loving kindness, any ill will be abandoned. This is how a Buddha teaches. They teach very clear, very concise, and very precise. You don't have to interpret their words. You don't have to figure out what it is that they're saying. They just say it very clearly. He's saying practice loving kindness meditation because it'll eliminate your ill will. It's very clear. You don't have to interpret this. You don't have to figure out what he's saying. It's just very clear. Here's another one. He says loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. So this first one, he's talking about practicing meditation, and then now he's talking about going out into the world and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day interactions. Because as I mentioned, you can't meditate your way to the end of anger and hatred and ill will and all these other discontent feelings. It's an important component that you need the meditation. But if you were meditating and then you went out into the world and you were bitter and harsh and hostile with people, you're not actually going to be able to transform your mind because your mind's still bitter and hostile. So the meditation is a training to rewire your mind and build up the loving kindness, but then you go out into the world and be loving and kind in your day-to-day interactions. That's where the real transformation is occurring. Here's another teaching from the Buddha where I'll kind of set this up for you, where you might think that during the lifetime of a Buddha, he was the only one teaching, right? But that's not actually the case, because if you live during the lifetime of a Buddha, you probably would like to learn with a Buddha, right? Well, not everybody knew that he was a Buddha. So there were other people that were teaching besides him, and they were teaching other things that conflicted with the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha knew it was his teachings that led to enlightenment. That's why he kept teaching, and that's why he was dedicated to sharing them. But other people didn't necessarily know that. So there were other teachers who were teaching other things during his lifetime. And sometimes those students from other teachers and the students of the Buddha would get together, and they would sometimes have meals together. So the Buddha is talking here to his students, and he's saying, suppose they ask, meaning those other students from other teachers, suppose they ask, but what, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned? You should answer, the liberation of mind by loving kindness. For one who attends carefully to the liberation of the mind by loving kindness, any unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. This, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. So this is what I was sharing with you about the airport, that when you're noticing anger arising, what's going to solve that is bringing in loving kindness. That's what he's talking about when he says arisen anger is abandoned, that when your anger is arising, the way to get rid of that is to bring in the loving kindness. That's the antidote. That's the prescription. But then he's talking about this unarisen anger, because like right now in your mind, you might not be angry just sitting here listening to me talk, but there's anger deep down into the mind. This is called a mental object. We also call them fetters. This is a deeply rooted container in the mind. If one of your cravings, desires, attachments get triggered, it's only a matter of time before your anger comes up. That's unarisen anger. It hasn't arisen right now, but it's deep inside your mind, and it can arise at any moment. So loving kindness is also what helps you to ensure that this unarisen anger does not actually arise. So these are words of the Buddha that you can see exactly what he taught, because oftentimes people aren't learning with the original words of the Buddha, and this is why there's so many misunderstandings in the world. If you've been exposed to teachings where you've seen rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayers, these are not the teachings of the Buddha, and those people are misunderstanding his teachings. If you see people talking about belief and things of this nature, or believing things and hoping something good happens when you die, or good luck or bad luck or things like this, these aren't the teachings of the Buddha. I've been to over 200 temples in my life, and I've only ever been to one temple that actually shares the original words of the Buddha. If you do the math on this, this is less than 1%. So more likely than not, the people that you might be interacting with aren't necessarily studying with the original words of the Buddha, but you can study with the original words of the Buddha, because I make all these books and all these things available to you at no cost. The original words of the Buddha are in 45 volumes of books that are this thick, and it's very expensive to print that out. The average Thai person, it would cost them about 3 months of their salary to be able to print this out. But what I did is I put it on the internet so that way you can download it for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. In this way, you have access to the original words of the Buddha, and you can see what did he actually teach and what he didn't teach. In this way, you can actually learn and grow and develop and experience the same mental state that he experienced, because he was a human being, just like you and I. He experienced enlightenment, and you can too. You just need to have the wisdom to be able to understand how to do that. So this is some teachings from the Buddha on loving kindness meditation. So anything you guys would like to ask at this point, and then I'm going to share with you guys how to actually do loving kindness meditation. But do you guys have any questions on anything I've been sharing so far? Okay. I don't see any questions anywhere. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how we do loving kindness meditation, and then we'll actually do a session together so you can experience it. What we do to start out our loving kindness meditation is we start with some chanting to ease the mind into meditation. The chants are over there on a laminated sheet on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get one if you'd like to chant along. For those of you guys that are online, you can get this by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and then you can just scroll down towards the bottom, and you'll see the daily chanting sheets there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So chanting was a learning tool, was a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used as a learning tool, as a learning device, where today we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So as you're chanting, it'll kind of exercise your mind a little bit and kind of prepare your mind for the meditation. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the way into the meditation. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, "Here, chant these chants to me," because this would be arrogance or ego. This would be putting yourself above people. And by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you no longer have that in your mind. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful, joyful mental state of enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for them too. So that's where I suspect these chants came from, is probably his students, either during his life or after his death, because they would have had a lot of appreciation for him, for helping them to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. So you're welcome to chant along if you like. Just understand that it's nothing mystical or magical. It's not a prayer or anything like that. It's helping your mind to be able to get more benefit out of the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be guiding you in something called breathing mindfulness meditation. This kind of prepares your mind for the loving kindness meditation. You're going to hear me essentially teaching you and instructing you in the meditation as I'm actually, we're actually meditating together. Everyone here and everyone at home, we're just all going to be meditating together. There's going to be a period of time of quietness. And during that period of time, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds, like a car go by, maybe a dog barking, bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze. this is all normal. This is impermanence, right? But if you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated, right? It's not the outside world that's causing you to be frustrated or annoyed. It's the mind itself craving permanence, and you live in an impermanent world. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So you're going to hear occasional sounds as we're meditating, but you can be in meditation at ease and peaceful because you understand, the world's working exactly the way it was intended to work, where there's impermanence. These sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. Then after that short period of time of quietness, you're going to start hearing me say these phrases that you see here. And I'm actually going to expand it. I'm not just going to say these three. You'll hear me saying more than this, but you'll hear me saying it out loud. I'll say, may I be peaceful. And when you hear that, you would like to repeat that within your own mind. And then you're going to hear me say, may I be safe. Again, repeat that in your own mind on the out breath. Then may I be well. Again, repeat that in your mind on the out breath. And then may I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. And now you repeat that on the out breath. And then I'm going to go to create rings that are a little bit wider and wider and wider. You're going to hear me say things like, may mom and dad be peaceful. And again, you repeat that on the out breath in your own mind. May mom and dad be safe. May they be well. May they be free of discontentedness, right? Now, when we're doing these other individuals, these other rings, we're not trying to change mom and dad through our meditation. In fact, this is impossible. You can't change other people through your meditation. If it was possible to change other people through your meditation, a bunch of us would come together and there would be no such thing as murders or rapes or prisons or anything like that, because we would all just meditate and change everybody around the world. But that's not possible. What this meditation is for is to change your mind. So we're not sending loving kindness to mom and dad. We're not trying to change mom and dad through our meditation. You're rewiring your mind to be more loving and kind, so that way when you're around mom and dad, you will be more loving and kind. And now that's what's going to transform your relationships, because when you're bitter and harsh and hostile with mom and dad, this is producing unwholesome results for you. You would like to get to the point where you're only being loving and kind with all the people around you, including mom and dad. So each one of these rings that we go through, it's in order to rewire your mind to be more loving and kind. And it's not going to be just one meditation and wham, you're already loving and kind, right? It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just flip a switch, but there's this gradual training and gradual wearing away of the anger. So we're going to go through these multiple rings, and then eventually we're going to get to all beings, because we're not interested in leaving any beings out. You would like to cultivate loving kindness for all beings. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of this with some more chanting. The way that I think about it is like a loving kindness sandwich, right? In the middle, we've got loving kindness. The lettuce and tomato is the breathing mindfulness meditation. And then the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through this whole thing. Okay, so if you guys would like to join along in the chanting, you're more than welcome to. In terms of your body position, you might just sit on the floor in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can really sit however you're comfortable. You might have some cushions under your rear. Just lightly cross your legs. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air. The Buddha put his right hand over his left and his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because that would be permanence. We live in an impermanent world. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs, their knees, their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. You like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so that you can actively train it. If you're in a chair, sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. So you're welcome to join in on the chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance for the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang wa te ami Savakato emakewata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano emakewato Sawakasangko Sanghang namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโพตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So this is loving kindness meditation. This is what you would like to be doing each morning. This is a great meditation for the morning. So that way you go out in your day filled up with loving kindness. You're going to have lots of interactions throughout your day with your parents, your boss, your coworkers, neighbors, friends, just random people that you meet along the street. And if your mind's full of this loving kindness, then your intentions, speech, and actions can emanate from that loving kindness. So this is a great meditation to do in the morning as part of your regular meditation practice. What you're going to notice is that if you commit yourself to doing this meditation regularly, slowly but surely, the anger, the hostility, the bitterness, that'll all slowly start to be worn away. The Buddha gives a really good analogy on this to help you understand how this works, is that if you had a digging tool with a wooden handle, and each day you were digging with this wooden tool, each day you're going to be wearing away wood off of the handle, but you're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away every single day. But when the handle has been completely exhausted and you need to replace that handle, you're going to know that. So the same thing is true about your anger. If you commit yourself to practicing this loving kindness meditation each day, you're not going to know how much anger you're wearing away each individual day. But when it's completely gone, you'll know that. Because it'll be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You haven't been bitter and harsh and hostile with the people around you. This is how the transformation occurs. At one time in my life, I was really bitter and harsh and hostile with my mother because I had a lot of expectations for her growing up. But as I started training my mind with this meditation, I got to a point where it was 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. There was no bitterness, no hostility towards mom whatsoever. Because, sometimes when we get together with certain people, when you have cravings and expectations in your mind, it's kind of like fireworks going off. off. That's the way it was for Mom and I. When we would get together, it was like fireworks. You might have people like that when you interact with them, your mind is like fireworks. It explodes almost. Well, usually what we do is we go down this path of anger and hostility and bitterness, and it's a well-worn path. And we know where that path leads to, is it leads to broken relationships. It leads to misery and grief and sorrow. And you would be unwise to keep walking down that path. What doing this loving kindness meditation does, and what going out into the world and be loving and kind does, is it's like forming this new path. It's like getting out a machete and breaking through the stickers, breaking through the branches, and creating this new path for yourself. And that's why it's challenging. That's why it's challenging to go down this new path, because you have to create this new path for yourself where you can learn how to be loving and kind, warm and gentle with all the people around you. But if you go down this new path enough, this becomes the well-worn path. This old path overgrows. The stickers, the branches, the bushes, all of that grows back, and your mind won't go down that path anymore because you've got this new path of loving kindness. So sometimes when you're experiencing something from somebody and it doesn't agree with what you want or what you expect, that's where you go down this well-worn path of anger and hostility. But if you can understand that it's your own mind that's causing that, where your mind's craving permanence, now you can form this new path. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do. So is there any questions you guys have on this loving kindness meditation or how this works to transform the mind? Yes, sir. There's microphones right there next to you. Almost. Not yet. Just press the button. You'll see the lights come on.
Am I audible now? Yes, it looks like I am. Okay, thank you for that. Actually, it's not really a question so much as maybe a comment that maybe you can comment on. I kind of get that like anger and hatred is like, and love on the other hand is kind of a cognitive dissonance, and you can't really hold them both simultaneously in the mind, or at least the extent to which you are able to generate love or metta. To that extent, you can reduce the hatred, right? But I mean, when we have maybe anger or hatred towards somebody, there's a reason usually, like that person has done something bad, maybe they want to harm me or something like that. And when we do this meditation, we don't really have a reason. We just like have an affirmation. And I'm just wondering, like I found it quite helpful when you talked about the expectations, that may be the reason why we would have that negative attitude towards the person. Mm-hmm. But are we really doing anything to like come up with a different expectation, or is it just simply an affirmation that we try to just build up, even though we don't really have a reason for it, in the same way that we have a reason for the hatred or the anger that we might have towards someone? Yeah. So I don't know if that's a question or that's just my reaction. I'd like to hear your view.
Yeah, right now you're not understanding the Four Noble Truths yet, because it's not the other person that has done something that has caused the anger to arise. It's actually within one's own mind that it's craving and expecting and wanting this person to do things a certain way. And now the mind can only be happy if they do it my way. And now if they do it any other way, that's where the mind is experiencing anger. So it's not the person themselves that's causing that anger. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be permanent. So there's a whole path for the mind to be able to be trained to eliminate craving, the longing, the yearning, the desire, the attachment, the wants and expectations. That's part of the whole path to enlightenment, the whole Eightfold Path. This is really targeting the anger and hatred and ill will. So there's other parts of the path that you haven't learned yet that's going to target training the mind to let go. Because what the mind's doing is it's holding on and it's craving permanence, it's clinging, and that's why the anger is arising. So you need to put those things in practice, and then the loving kindness is coming in to be able to address the anger and the hatred and the bitterness and hostility and all those other things. So without the entire path, which is what I taught yesterday, I'll just show you a graphic of this so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the Eightfold Path in a graphic where there's 8 individual steps, and you would learn each one of these steps and you would implement them into your life. It's kind of like if you had a speaker system and you had these 8 dials and you're tweaking these 8 dials to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. This is what you would like to be bringing into your life and tweaking into your life more and more. And as you do, this is going to eliminate your cravings, your longing, your yearning, your wanting, your expectations. So you're not replacing your expectations. You're actually getting rid of them, where you don't long and yearn for everybody to do things a certain way. So for example, if I was sitting here in this class and I expected everybody to sit a certain way, that would be my mind craving permanence. I want everybody to sit facing forward. I want everybody to sit on the floor. I want everybody to have their legs a certain way and their back a certain way. That would be me craving permanence. And now I can only be happy if everybody sits that way. And then if they sit any other way, then the mind would be frustrated or angry, irritated, right? But if you understand impermanence, then you understand everybody's going to sit differently. Everyone's going to sit however they're comfortable. And if you have loving kindness for others, that's what you would be interested in is, hey, just sit however you're comfortable, right? You can wear whatever you like. You can sit however you like. If you'd like to be on your phone and checking your phone, it's up to you. That's your life, right? So as long as you have a craving or a wanting or expectation for something, you're never going to get those met 100% of the time, because the world is full of impermanence and you're just sabotaging your ability to be peaceful and joyful, because the mind is craving this permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. So this Eightfold Path is going to train your mind to not crave permanence. And then as you're letting those go, you're letting go of craving, desire, attachment. You need something like loving kindness meditation to come in and break up the anger and hatred, because there's anger and bitterness in the mind already. So just getting rid of the cravings, desires, attachments is great, but you need to break up the anger and hatred that's in the mind already now. So you can get rid of the craving, desire, attachment that is producing the anger, but the anger that's already in the mind, you got to clean that up and get that out. That's where the loving kindness meditation is coming in.
So just to, like, how I understood it, like you talk about anger, which is already in the mind, and anger, which is yet to be created. And these two, like the metta meditation is for the anger which we already have, or which is yet to, or the deeper one.
Okay, let me back up. I'm going to show you something I taught on Monday. Let me get all the way back. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so actually right here. So these are what's called the 10 fetters. These are the 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. And this is what you're uprooting out of the mind in order to be able to experience enlightenment. These are 10 pollutions that the Buddha discovered. These are the 5 lower fetters, and then there's the 5 higher fetters. Some people call them defilements or pollutions. Everything he taught in one way or another is teaching you to uproot these out of the mind. This is what's keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. These are like deeply rooted containers in the mind. One of those is ill will. When we talk about craving, desire, attachment, we're mainly talking about sensual desire. This is where the mind is longing, yearning through the sense bases, the eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. And now, if you get agreeable contact, then you'll get happy, you'll get pleasant feelings. But if you get disagreeable contact, you'll get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And when you're getting that disagreeable contact, when your sensual desire is not getting fulfilled, that's when your ill will arise. So for example, say you're sitting at a traffic light in a car, and now someone pulls up to you with some music that you really like. And you're like, whoa, that's my jam. All right, let's party. Come on, party, party, party. Yeah, this is fun. You're hearing something agreeable in your ears that it's pleasing your sensual desire. And now your sensual desire is getting fulfilled. So you get those pleasant feelings. But now you pull up to another traffic light and somebody else pulls up to you with a different music and you find that to be disagreeable. And now when you hear that disagreeable sound, it's triggering your central desire, that your central desire is not getting fulfilled in this situation. You're not getting permanently agreeable contact through the ears. And now your frustration starts to arise. That's the ill will. And now you think about this person, they're playing that bad music. How dare them play that music so loud? Rah, 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 rah. right? So this is the deeply rooted container of ill will that wasn't rising in the first situation because the mind with sensual desire was getting fulfilled. But in the second situation, the ill will was arising, even though it was there, deeply rooted in the mind, it was arising during the situation where you're getting disagreeable contact. So what the loving kindness meditation is doing is it's uprooting this ill will out of your mind. It's like cleaning it out. It's kind of like getting all the garbage out of the house, right? And now you'll find that you'll be less and less angry in situations. But all the while, not only do you need to get rid of this ill will, you need to get rid of this cravings, desires, attachments. And that's what the Eightfold Path is doing for you, is helping you to clean up all of this stuff out of the mind. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, yeah, more questions?
Thank you for guide us the loving kindness meditation. So for my personal experience, when I was going through for the loving kindness meditation, when you start to say about may all the beings be peace, and I couldn't focus, and I will record back those someone that torture me mentally and with unethical action. Yeah, so I start to wonder why we would be peaceful.
Sure.
Yeah.
So oftentimes when we've experienced something, we perceive the painful mental feelings that you have as coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from one's own mind. And now when you've experienced that, the mind has resentment towards this other person. And now maybe even though you're out of that relationship, your mind will hold on to this resentment and hostility. And it's actually not helping you at all. It's actually like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. The only person getting burned is yourself. So this meditation is not to fix the other person or change the other person. It's actually to get rid of this anger and resentment within your own mind, because it's only harming you at this point, right? Because now, as long as you have that bitterness and hostility in the mind, it's just plaguing your mind from being free of having peace and joy. So whether you ever see that person again or not, it actually doesn't matter. You can actually customize this meditation. This meditation that I did here, I did it based on everybody that was here, but you would like to actually customize this for yourself. Let's just say this person is Bob or Susie or something like that. You would actually, instead of doing the ones that I did, you would like to say, may Bob be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. Even if you're never going to see this person ever again, even if they're dead and long in the past, if you're holding on to bitterness and hostility, hatred in your mind's not free. And now it's all bound up with this anger and frustration. So this meditation is to uproot that out of your mind so that your mind can be free and you can experience the peace and joy.
So how to get rid of my mind that thinking the one is doing harmful thing to me, and it's already caused me the physical uncomfortable. Yeah.
You need to be able to see the Four Noble Truths very clearly that I taught on Monday, where you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because the unenlightened mind will firmly believe that it's other people who are causing you to be angry and frustrated and all these other discontent feelings. You need to be able to independently verify it, because the Buddha teaches you very clearly what is actually causing these discontent feelings, but the mind is oftentimes hindered from being able to understand that because of its lack of wisdom and its unwillingness to let go of its current false beliefs, false opinions, and false views. So you need to be willing to let go of those false beliefs, false opinions, and false views, so that now that you've independently verified this teaching, you can see the truth for yourself. And that's why I tend to give examples in the class, so that you can see the examples, like the going to the airport and your flight's delayed and your anger's coming up. It's the mind craving permanence. Or I think you were here when I was talking about the ice cream, right? Mommy and daddy, give me chocolate and ice cream. And when you get chocolate and ice cream, you're so happy, yay. But when mommy and daddy don't give us chocolate and ice cream, we're angry and we're frustrated. That's because the mind's craving permanence. It's longing, yearning. So you need to be able to see that whatever this person did, maybe they did some things that were unwise. I don't know, because I don't know the details. Maybe they did some things that were unwise, but that's not what caused your anger. They were just doing whatever they did. They made whatever decisions they were making, and based on whatever wisdom they have or lack of wisdom. But your mind had a craving for them to do things a certain way. And when they did things differently than what you wanted, that's when your painful feelings came in. So you need to be able to see that very clearly for yourself. And if you'd like to talk privately, we can do that too. And we can talk very specifically about the situation if you'd like. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, please. I'm not sure who's next. We have a bunch of microphones here. You guys are welcome to spread them out around the room.
Thank you. I want to know that in my childhood, my mother full of controlling, but recently 2 years, they changed the ways to communicate with me with respect.
Mm-hmm.
But many times in reality, I want to forgive them because they.
The microphones are impermanent. The Buddhist teachings apply to everything. We have more right here. Yeah, the batteries probably need to be changed. Yeah, or the frequency's dropping off or something. There's some impermanence somewhere. Yeah. You see, you don't have to get angry just because of impermanence. Maybe you could turn that one off for us so we don't get feedback. Thank you. It's off. Okay.
And in the daytime, I want to communicate with them politely and friendly. But in the night, from time to time, I will dream a dream in the childhood, what happens to me. And I usually feel and don't want to forgive them.
Yeah.
So, and many times I will feel sad and can't help crying, but I don't know what works to me. I don't know, even though I don't think anything, I don't know what things works to me, let me feel sad, angry. Yeah, just what you call is like unreasonable, angry.
You need to be able to train your mind with the teachings of the Buddha, to train it to let go, because what your mind's doing is you're holding on to things from the past and you're forming feelings today based on things in the past. As long as your mind's holding on to those things, you're going to keep experiencing this emotions over and over and over again. You need to understand that your parents, whatever they did in the past, they were doing whatever they thought was best. And maybe they lacked wisdom and they weren't necessarily doing the very best things, but they were doing whatever they thought was best. And now, however many years later, they've changed and they're doing things differently, which is wonderful. But you can't hold on to what happened in the past. You need to put it in the past and just let it go. And now appreciate your parents for giving you this life and giving you the ability to sustain your life. Because even though we all disagreed with what our parents did to a certain degree, right? There's always things that we disagree with. They at least gave you food, clothing, shelter, medical care. They provide you the opportunity to get an education. And now you can stand up on your own 2 feet and you can be an adult and you can create a wonderful life for yourself. So if you can at least get to the point where you understand, of course, you disagree with some of their choices and decisions in your childhood, but at least they provided you enough ability to sustain your life. Now you can at least have appreciation and gratitude for them, and then just let go of whatever happened in the past and realize that that was in the past, and they were operating in the best way that they thought was possible at that time. But now it seems like they maybe have cultivated more wisdom. But you need to be able to train your mind how to let go, because the mind doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state. And that's what the Eightfold Path will do for you.
Thank you. And the second question is, I think their controlling love is not the true love. So I don't know what is true love. So I want to control my boyfriend. Every boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, so I broke up times to time. And I want to love them unconditionally, but I don't know how to do that, because I full of expectation. You should do that in this way to love me. Yeah. But it doesn't happen.
What I would suggest you to do is this first book. This is the best place to start, this first book. And you can download it for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us, or you can get it on Amazon. Chapter 15 is all about true love, and it helps you to understand about true love. Because most of us in the unenlightened state don't even know what true love is, we don't practice true love, and that's why you're not receiving true love. That people aren't going to treat you with true love because you're not actually practicing it. So you need to understand what true love is in order to be able to put that out. And the more that you put out true love will come back to you. So I would encourage you to get one of these in all those different ways. And you can focus on chapter 15, but I would read the entire book probably multiple times if I was you. I've had students read it 8, 10, 12 different times, and they tell me they learn something new every time. But that would be the best place to start. And if you'd like to learn in classes, you can come in through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, and you can learn classes because I teach all throughout the month, and you can take classes, and it's all available at no cost.
And plus, I meet a boy, and I was seriously love him and with no purpose, but he thinks I was an idiot and treat me with no respect and have another girl in the relationship. So I think maybe in the relationship there should have some tricks to treat others.
Okay, so I'll share this with you. There's 3 things you need in order to have a successful life partnership. And these are things that you need from the other person, but you also need them for yourself too. You need to practice these 3 things. The first one is you need to understand that you nor the other person is perfect. You're a work in progress. You're imperfect beings, that you're not perfect yet, because only an enlightened being is actually functioning perfectly. So you need to be able to understand you and the other person are imperfect. When you guys come together, you're not going to be perfect. And they need to understand that they're not perfect, and you need to understand that you're not perfect. The second thing you need is you need to not blame your feelings on the other person. And the other person needs to be sure they're not blaming their feelings on you. Because if you're blaming feelings on each other, this isn't actually true. It's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And the third thing is you both need to be willing to get the help and the guidance that you need to be able to train your mind and do this inner work to grow and develop and become a better person. If you guys have these 3 things, you can grow as individuals, and as a couple, you'll do things really wonderful together. But if you have the opposite of this, where you and or him think that you're perfect, if you and or him are blaming each other for your feelings, if you and or him aren't willing to get the help that you need to become a better individual, then your relationship is going to stagnate, because each of you individually is stagnated. You're not growing and developing and becoming a better person. So if you can find a partner with those 3 things, which is oftentimes very challenging, but if you're learning and growing and developing on this path, training your mind, you can cultivate these things, and then you can find a partner that is also cultivating those things. So nothing is going to get solved today. If you're really interested in getting to a better life, you're going to need to dedicate your time to learning and growing and developing on the path to enlightenment. So that's why I guide you to the book and all the other resources that we have to be able to help you.
So I just practice controlling myself and choose to stay or walk away.
There's much more to it than that. You're going to need to learn many different things. It's not just, I can't give you a 3-minute teaching that's going to fix everything in your life. That's why the best thing I can do is guide you to that book so that you can start learning and you can start taking classes, because there's multiple things that you're going to need to learn in order to be able to train your mind. It's not going to be just a 3-minute quick little thing. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
Your mic's not on yet. You might have turned it off when you got it.
Yeah, just in my own personal experience, this loving kindness is wonderful. And I think if anybody uses it regularly, that it will help to shift mindsets. I experienced it with family members in relation to family stuff, and I practiced it. And it's just that whole willingness to offer them, may you be peaceful. And in doing that, in my opinion, it helped me. So just putting that in there, for people. I think it's a great meditation with resentments and with offering up. But ultimately it comes back to yourself, right? So in offering it out, it'll come back to yourself. So that's just I want to say, yeah.
Oh, do you have a question?
Not really, but I just wanted to throw that in there,
I see. It's important if you guys talk to have a question, so that way that I can give you guys help. Because if everybody shared their views and opinions, we'd be here for quite a while. Any other questions you guys have? Yeah, please. We have microphones.
David. So, when you're talking about whatever negative, let's say, feeling that you have doesn't come from an external source, but from yourself. And so, the examples that you take and the examples in, let's say, 95 or 98% of our time would, I'd say it's easy to agree or understand, not agree, but understand. Okay, that makes sense. The ice cream example, the airport example, daily life examples, most things. But let's assume that, someone amputates my legs. Someone sits me down in a torture room and tortures me. Someone holds down my head in the water and tries to drown me. In those, both in the instance when those things happen, in terms of what someone is actually actively doing towards me to cause me not only bodily, but emotionally, mentally harm, damage. Mm-hmm. But also maybe down the line, maybe I'll develop a heart issue, or I'm actually an amputee, etc., causing me hardship in my daily life, maybe forever. And so in these extreme examples, I'm very curious to understand how these teachings apply, because as I'm being drowned, so is it all in my head? Or not in my head, but is it me causing this, whatever I'm going through when this happens to me? Or is it actually this external source that's causing this?
Okay.
So I have two questions, but I'll start with this one.
Okay. Anytime there's feelings or emotions in the mind, it's always being caused by the mind itself. It's not anything external. So in those kinds of extreme examples, the way the teachings apply is that you would be able to make wise decisions to ensure that you're never in that kind of situation, because those kinds of situations don't just poof, fall out of the sky and all of a sudden you're being tortured and being drowned and things like this. This is decisions that we make that lead to these types of things. And we need to be able to make wise decisions of who we associate with, the places that we go, the things that we do. This is all part of the path of understanding the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, and what it would be wise for us to do or not do at any given time in our life. And this is the natural law of karma. But even in a situation, I'll just change it a little bit. Let's just say somebody walked up to me and punched me in the face. If this being got angry, that's because the mind's craving permanent comfort of the body, or craving for other people to treat me a certain way. It's not the other person who's causing me to be angry or frustrated. So by the time someone gets to enlightenment, if someone came up and punched that person or slapped that person, they wouldn't get angry. It's impossible for them to get angry, right? But that person who's enlightened, they're going to be making wise decisions to make sure that they're not in that situation. So every single time the mind's ever been angry or frustrated, irritated, even in the extreme examples you're talking about, it's still the mind itself having craving that's causing the feelings and emotions. And then the way these teachings apply is to make sure you're making wise decisions so that you don't end up in those situations. That's the wholesome karma that you're producing.
Okay, so if one were to have a job where you constantly deal with people who have or are in, exposed to those extreme situations, what would be the best way of interacting and talking to those people whose karma, has put them in those places? Let's just say, for instance, today in a place like Sudan or Palestine, how would one talk to those people without putting the blame, so to say, not the blame, but I know what you mean, in a human way, so it doesn't come across as kind of you put yourself in this situation?
Well, that is the true reality of it. There's a way to say that lovingly and warmly and gently so that the person can gradually see it. But without that wisdom and that understanding, then the person never cultivates the wisdom that they need in order to make different decisions. If you try to sugarcoat it and you try to say something that's not true, then they're not actually making the wise decisions to make different decisions. So if somebody's had things that have happened in their life that are unfortunate, and all of us have had things that have happened that are unfortunate and that we would rather not occur in our life, every single one of us, maybe not to the point of bombs dropping on our heads or things of that nature, but nonetheless, we've all experienced unfortunate things. If we don't understand the truth that it's our decisions that are leading to these things, then we never cultivate the wisdom to make different decisions. So if I was talking with anybody or everybody, I would talk with them in the same way, helping them to see that it's their own cravings, desires, attachments that are causing these feelings, and it's their own decisions that are either leading to these things or not. So an individual needs to be able to see that truth in order to experience something better. And that's the most loving and kind and compassionate thing I can do, is share the truth with somebody so that then they can cultivate wisdom and make different decisions. It's not about blame or fault. There's none of that in the teachings of the Buddha. But oftentimes, if people have been taught that way in various traditions, that's what their mind is holding on to. But you'll never see that the Buddha's talking about blame or fault. He's just talking about what is true reality and what's actually really happening within your mind and within your life. And now when you understand that true reality, then you can cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and experience different results. But if I don't share as a teacher what is true reality, then I'm not actually servicing the students in the best way so that they can cultivate the wisdom and then make better decisions to experience something better.
Thank you. I might have this conversation further with you one-on-one.
Okay.
The second question pertains to when during the loving kindness meditation, when you mention may all beings be free from discontentedness and this suffering that it causes. Mm-hmm. And this brings me to your teachings. And you talk about, both positive and negative and the in-between ones. And it's not always discontentedness and it's not always suffering. And so I was thinking, in my mind, wouldn't it make more sense to talk about may all beings be free from conditioned mind and the imbalance that it causes, then it would cover all those.
I'm having trouble. Isn't it better to say, may all beings be free of a conditioned mind and what?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're just not holding it up to your mouth. That's
Okay.
all. It's on.
Okay. So wouldn't it be better to say, may all beings be free from a conditioned mind and the imbalance that it causes? Because then you wouldn't have to just refer to suffering or discontentedness. You would cover all the different spectrums that you've yourself mentioned in your teachings.
So this is what works. You know, at this point in my life, it's been a very long time since I've experienced any anger and frustration, irritation or annoyance or any of these discontent feelings. This is what works. While someone might look at it and be interested to change it or think it should be done differently, that's for that person to sort out. This is what I know works, so that's why I teach it. Focusing on discontentedness, that's what the Buddha taught. He says it very clearly. I taught what is discontentedness. I taught the cause of discontentedness. I taught the elimination of discontentedness. And I taught the path leading to the elimination of discontentedness. That's what the whole path to enlightenment is. And that's what you're working towards on this path. So that's what I focus on. And keep in mind that this meditation isn't to change the other person. It's not to try to get some power to change that person. This is cultivating in your mind that you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And what you're saying is actually essentially very similar, but it's just different words, because the whole thing that's causing discontentedness is the conditioned mind. But this is what I know works, so that's why I share it that way, because I know it works 100%. If it worked for me, it'll work for you. And all you need to do is be willing to decide for yourself that you're interested in practicing this. And if you practice it, you'll see that it works.
Sorry, I think I might not have been clear. My point is referring to your own teachings. I'm not debating your teachings. I'm just saying that wouldn't it make more sense, because you yourself say that you don't think that it's actually makes sense to speak of suffering, and so in that sense, and also being happy about something, that's a conditioned mind. Being angry about something is a conditioned mind. So if we just want for others that they get free from discontentedness and suffering, what about those euphoric emotions that also are the ups and then brings us back down?
So your question, if I can put some words in your mouth for a little bit, your question is, David, why do you use the word suffering in your meditation? That's what you're asking? Okay. Yeah, I can answer that for you, but the way that you phrase it is like you're trying to say that I should change what it is that I'm sharing. So the reason why I use the word suffering is because it's very painful to experience these discontent feelings. When I talk about discontentedness and I talk about the universal truth of discontentedness, I use the word discontentedness because we're talking about pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. But when we're cultivating loving kindness, then we talk about discontentedness, which is those three feelings, but also having those three feelings, having those conditioned feelings, it does produce suffering in the mind. There is some suffering. But when we talk about the universal truth, we talk about it as discontentedness because we're talking about all three feelings. But there is suffering in there. There is suffering that is experienced, but it's not the universal truth. When we're talking about the universal truth, we need to use it in a way that's all encompassing for all three feelings. So that's what we're doing here too in the meditation, is we're saying, may they be free of discontentedness, which is all three feelings, and the suffering that it causes. Because by having conditioned feelings, the mind is experiencing suffering. And this is helping you to build up your loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? You have a question? Yes, ma'am.
All we're talking about today is just about how we live a better life and how to find our inner peace, right? So maybe I think I'm able to not craving permanence, like from my perspective. For example, the flight delayed or the microphone doesn't work, it's all fine. But what if someone he's doing something ethically improper or even illegal, criminal, and what we do is just change the way we are thinking. But if we don't stop them from doing that, maybe they will do something more harmful to the world. So I was wondering, I'm concerning that if we just only pursuing the inner peace of ourselves, and we can forgive everything, we just pursue kindness, love, and what the world should be. And if no one urge for justice, so I'm not sure what the world will be. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're talking about is how to get to the peace and joy within your own mind. We're not talking about going out into the world and changing other people. That's what the unenlightened mind oftentimes thinks is the answer and the solution to the difficulties and struggles within one's own mind. People think the way to solve that is go out into the world and fix everybody else. But that's the mind's craving, and that's the mind's ego, thinking that I'm right and everyone else is wrong and I need to go out and fix everybody else. You'll never actually get to peace and joy that way. So what we're talking about here is training your own mind. If someone does something illegal, if someone does something unwise, that's a choice that they're making, and they're going to experience the results of that choice. But you can't change and force everybody to do things a certain way. And it would be unwise to go out into the world and trying to force and control people to do things a certain way, because it's just going to lead to your frustration, because you can't control other people to do things your way. That's not what this path is about. This path isn't about going out and convincing other people to do things, but it's training your mind to get to peace and joy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is end here. It looks like we're kind of at a time where we need to take a break. So it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to take a break up until 11:20. But as we take our break here, I would like to just see how many people are planning to go to the orphanage, because we need to organize transportation. So we're going to be leaving at we're going to be leaving at 1:30 to go to the store and purchase a bunch of supplies for the children. And then we're going to go to the orphanage, and then we're going to get back here around 6 or so. So can I just see a show of hands how many people would like to go? Let's see, one, maybe you guys can count off so that I don't miss anybody. We lost our count back there. I heard 8. I hear 9, 10, 11. Everyone get counted? 12. Okay, 13, your friend. Bailan is 14. I'm 15. Okay, so what I'm going to do is invite you guys, if you like, to put together some money so that we can go to the store. I'm going to put a bowl up here, and I'm going to get us started with 2,000 baht, so that way we can buy some supplies for the kids. If you guys would like to put money in, you can. You don't have to. But if you guys are interested in contributing to help the children, then we're going to collect up some money, and we're going to use this in order to purchase the children's supplies. And then there's just going to be a small fee for the van in order to be able to provide for the transportation. So if you guys factor that in, that'll be helpful for you guys. But if you're interested, there's ability for us to put resources together and purchase the kids some things. So I'll see you guys at 11:20. I'm going to pick up with the natural law of karma and teach what is merit and things from there.